Hello and welcome to Project Server. So we've been running the server in parallel for well, a while now, and it actually became my daily driver when my main machine decided to die on me. Its power supply kicked out and it took out a hard drive, and at that point it was easier just to move into the server and stay with the server as the primary computer. And so I have been daily driving with it. Couple of minor niggles. I have fixed the 4x 8x problem with the slot that I added. It was tedious. I had to go through every single connection and actually solder it manually, but solved the problem. Would I do that again? No. I think if I was going to do this again, I'd just cut the end off the slot, which is what I did the first time. I think that's the simplest and easy solution. And why, with an 8x slot, they don't just cut the ends off anyway, I don't know. Two slightly irritating things that both happen at startup, which is not a problem because I don't restart very often. And one is the reason why my KVM switch is here. So this KVM switch means that I only have to have one keyboard and mouse, which is plugged into my main computer, which, yes, I have got working again. And even though I keep calling it my main computer, she isn't anymore. I mean, she's off at the moment. She's actually, her USB ports are being used just to provide power for things more than anything else, because she's got that kind of USB motherboard where the USB ports provide power, because of course the server only has 4 USB ports, 5 if you count one on the inside, and so she's limited with USB ports. But KVM switch, the server is on 2 and the other computer is actually, on 1, because that's how it was set up. It's just to keep my desktop as tidy as possible. The server and the computer were sharing monitors and everything, but because obviously there's 4 things plugged into this KVM switch, keyboard and mouse, but also I have my web cameras plugged in, which I need for work, and probably if it wasn't for needing them for work due to the current situation, I probably would never have noticed this problem. And the reason they were in here is so that I didn't have to keep unplugging. Basically, I'm using this as a hub as well, because it's a hub KVM switch. If you don't know what a KVM switch is, it allows you, well, in this case, it's just keyboard and mouse and other devices, and it allows you to connect them or connect multiple devices to 2 different computers. But when it is selected on position 2, when the server starts up, when the server initializes legacy USB devices, it just hangs. And I think it's because one of these cameras is confusing it, because when the cameras aren't plugged in, it starts up beautifully. When the KVM switch is set to the other computer, the non-server, it starts up beautifully. So one of those causes a problem with the server. So that's one problem during startup. The other problem I have is with the RAID controller. Occasionally, when I shut the server down, for some reason, it corrupts the RAID, but doesn't corrupt the RAID. I have to re-import the array, but only one of the arrays. So I've got 2 arrays set up. I've got a RAID 1 array, which is my main operating system, and then I have a RAID 5 array, which is like storage. It's like the dump, the protected dump, and that always stays. But the drive group 0, which is the drive group we boot off, sometimes it gets forgotten by the RAID controller, and I don't know why. I'll walk you through it if it happens. I'll make a video of it. It's odd, and I have tried another RAID card, because at some point I thought that might solve the problem, and the problem was when I used the other RAID card, I then had to teach myself how to then re-import manually the old RAID configuration because the new RAID card touched the array and somehow messed up the settings, which meant I couldn't re-import it. So yeah, you know, a few problems, but again, there are workarounds. Anyway, the USB problem I'm hoping to solve because a package has arrived, and I think if I'm lucky this will be the USB 3.0 controller card. It looks like a very generic box, doesn't it? That is a very generic box. There's quality. I had a couple of issues with the sound card because I had to use the sound card in anger. How do you open this? Oh, like that. But mainly it was, oh look, a little, oh look, screws and everything. Small problem with the sound card, mainly I had to sort of adjust the settings, but once I've done that it's fine. Yes. So there are some buck converters here, which means that this 1X port, I believe, can take 75 watts of power, and then it ramps them up to provide power. I'm not going to be running powered or many powered devices, you know, lots of powered devices off of this anyway. I just really want this for connectivity more than anything else. All right, excellent, good stuff. What were the screws for? Just screws. Is there another screw? Oh well, can't get it out. No, you know, nice screws, spare screws, and a nice little driver disc. So it's not because there's a second plate or something. No. Okay, so it doesn't have a short plate, so only will go in a long one. All right. What we'll do is I will shut the server down. I'll pull the server out, and then we shall install the USB, and then probably we will be done. So, not much has changed in here since we've last been in here. Well, maybe there has. This is the original RAID card. I've changed the RAID cables so that they all match, because there is a second backplane in here, but the backplane hasn't been connected. So the connections are all here. You know, the cables are all in and routed, because obviously the expander card goes here and then the RAID card goes at the back. The plan, of course, is to take a feed off of the 8X connector that is under this card, run a ribbon cable through, and actually have the card added here, because there's plenty of space in this bay, so that I can have all slots used, even though this is a 2-slot graphics card that's taking up most of the space. Probably we should shut everything down, but you know what? I've got used to not doing that. So, like I said, this sound card is very cheap, very cheerful, but does the job. So I'm very happy with that. Oh, there's a slot in the way. And let's see if we can get you to go in. Oh, there you go. Just wasn't quite making it into there, but now it is. They look a little bit tight on the rails, don't they? Or on the edges. So that's where it's going to end up. Oh well, we'll see what happens when we put it in. The main thing is I don't want legacy devices running off of the system USB connectors. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but oh. All right. So that's in. And then what we will do is we will push our KVM switch so that we are away from the actual keyboard, so we don't have any legacy devices in the way. We'll push the button and hopefully not let the smoke out. So just for completeness, this is all of our USB connectivity that we actually have. This is plugged into USB 4, which comes off the system board and just gives us connectivity at the front. So we have USB 1, 2 and 4 at the front. USB 3 from the system board goes to my KVM switch to give us keyboard and mouse, which means I don't have to have more than one keyboard sitting on the desk. Then we have plugged into our 7-port PCIe card that we added. This one is, I believe, going to a USB sound card. This one is a web camera. This one is going to a phone charger, but actually provides like a standard USB connection as well. This one is going to charge for charging iPhones, an iPhone connectivity for dumping in stuff like that. So this one doubles up as an Android and also as a just a normal USB 3 connection. That's why it's a slightly nicer cable. This one I believe is the scanner. Yes, it is. And then this one is a USB B connector, full-size B connector for hard drive connectivity. And then this one is just a USB normal extension cable, again just to allow for connectivity. I picked one of these to be black and one of these to be white, just so they're easy to detect and tell the difference apart. And so that's what the back end of the server now looks like. And by putting everything into here, and because this card doesn't get started up until the operating system starts up, it actually means that we don't get any false starts while the system looks for legacy devices, because the only legacy devices now are the keyboard and mouse that are plugged into the KVM. So that's nice and easy. And this is what the back looks like now. We have an analog in and an analog out. As I said, we also have a digital card, a digital audio, a digital sound card as well. So it's nice to have that connectivity. Then of course we have network, and we have the IMM. I'm currently talking to the IMM. When I don't want to talk to the IMM, this one goes into here, just because it just gives us greater bandwidth on the network. But for now I'm plugging it back in because I want to talk to the IMM while the operating system is running. And then we're using DVI from this card, not DisplayPort or HDMI, just because when you plug in HDMI connectors, it changes audio settings, and so to reduce the potential for the audio to be changed more than it already is, because there's a USB and analog sound,
I use these connectors. Also, I have these cables lying around and they're very, very long, and so I might as well be using them for something. And so that's the current configuration at the back. And we have all of our plastic panels in, as I think we've shown on previous videos. We still have these. I still have to do something with these to make them tidier. Eventually cut them to the right size. I still want to utilize this area here for a fan, just to pull some more air through. And again, lots of little minor tweaks. I think also these are aluminium heat sinks, and I think there are copper ones that are much better at thermal heat dissipation, so they might be better. But at the end of the day, the heat builds up inside the case, so you need the fans to push the air out. So yeah, I don't think water cooling will ever be an option for this thing. But yeah, I'm very happy. Like I said, one minor problem, and that is to do with the RAID card. And if I can make it do it, I'll show it to you. There is a small area here where a fan can be placed, which I've already tested. In fact, a couple of 12-volt fans could go there. And then I have a thermocouple. This is the kind of thing that you get in USB power, computer power supplies that run silent. So this obviously is a thermocouple that detects the heat, and then it switches a fan on or off. So this usually will plug into a 12-volt header, so that would plug into a fan header, and then your fan plugs into there, and will only spin up when this gets to a certain temperature. And the hotter this gets, the faster the PWM on the back there spins up the fan. So it's a dump for dumb cheap fans. So all it needs is a 12 volt source, and we have 12 volt sources here, for example, that we can easily tap off of. And so then what we would probably do is place this either on the graphics card, so we could place it down the fins of the graphics card, or we would stick it on one of the CPUs, the one probably furthest away from the fan, so probably CPU 2. And then when the CPU gets hot, it would switch on an auxiliary fan at the back, just to pull more air through. That's a thought. In fact, I think the power supply that I have that's already dead probably has one of these in as well, so I'll probably salvage it. So maybe 2 of these. Just an idea going forward. I'm just thinking of ways of adding more cooling, because summer is coming, and the test for this with cooling will be, will it survive a hot summer? Because as a friend of mine pointed out to me, server rooms are a lot colder than a home office, and that might be some of the problem. Also, I have less airflow going through the system, so I am potentially in the summer going to be running this a little bit hotter than it probably wants to run, but we shall see. The graphics card itself looks after itself. It will ramp itself up and ramp itself down, so it's got its own fan, power curve or cooling curve in there, so that takes care of itself. But by having a fan, a couple of auxiliary small fans here, they will be a bit more noisier because they're smaller fans, but they'll fit neatly in, and they are on the graphics card side of things, so they will pull air through and cool the graphics card. And there is a small cutout here, so I don't know. I mean, cooling is, I think, going to be the main problem. I thought about liquid cooling for a while, and then realized the problem with that is there's so many heat sinks on the board that you do need a volume of air flowing through. It is designed to be air cooled. All right, like I say, I put the case back on. and see if I can force that weird error that I get.
And there it is. So I've been waiting for this to actually happen, and I think I now know why it does actually happen. Let me just check that that's actually in focus. You can actually read what it says. It's basically lost the drives, or it's lost the first virtual drive, I would guess, which is made up of 2 physical SSDs. Now, when I shut the server down, as in shut down, it's fine. But it's when I restart the operating system that this happens. So at least I understand sort of why it's happening, or I have a theory as to why it's happening. The theory seems to be that perhaps on restart, the IMM doesn't quite understand and the hard drives don't quite get shut down fast enough. Whatever, it just means don't restart, shut down. So yeah, I mean, the reboot time is the same whether you restart or shut down and restart anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Anyway, what normally happens at this point is I now have to go into the RAID controller settings. So we go in here and we'll find a missing virtual drive. Yeah, so we've got our group of 5 SSDs that make up one RAID 5 configuration. But we are missing, and if we go into our physical view, we are missing our, no, they're there. So here we go. So slot 0 and slot 1 both have unconfigured bad, not responding. So what I now have to do is I have to reach down to the server and I have to pull the 2 drives out of the bay, and then I have to slide them back in again, which you can actually hear me doing in the background. Right, they're locked in now. All right, so now let's go straight to this one worked. The last few times this has worked. So now we have our drives. Okay, now we go to physical view. So now we have just unconfigured bad. Okay, so now what I do is I select slot 0, unconfigured bad, and that takes us to slot 0, and I can either make it flash so I can find it. Obviously it's slot 0, I know where it is, but this is for when you have like a very complicated array, setup, perhaps. Anyway, I click make unconfigured good, and I click go, and that takes us back to there. And now we have all sorts of other options that we can do. We can make global hot swap, dedicated hot swap. We can make it bad if it's a defective drive. We can reject it from the array, and so on and so on. But we don't care about that. We're now going back to home again. There's probably an easier way of doing this. Probably. So now it turns up here as slot 0 foreign, but still unconfigured. So now we go back to the physical view again, and we're going to get the drive that's in slot 1 that is unconfigured bad, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say make unconfigured good and go. Excellent. And then we're going to go home. So now we have 2 unconfigured drives that are actually our 0 virtual drive. So they are our first virtual drive, which of course is drive 0. So now the question is, how do we re-import these? Well, there's 2 ways to do it. One way, which I had to do when these were in a different RAID card, I had to go through the configuration wizard and do it all manually and actually know all the settings. And that was because another RAID card had touched them and changed something on them, and it would not allow the actual configuration to be imported. But because this is a good configuration that was set up on this RAID controller, all I do is I restart the card. The card now says, hang on a minute, I've found some foreign configuration. Would you like to import it? And you say, yes, please. Let's have a look at that, just to make sure. And it has a look, and it says, look, there you go. Drive group 0 is RAID 5. Drive group 0 is drive 1, virtual drive 1. All right, it's around the wrong way now. It's been like that for a while. But drive group 1 is now drive 0. Would you like to import? And you say, yes, please. And that then imports it into the back into the RAID card. And now we should be back to having 2 virtual drives, which we are. One which is made up of 5 SSDs, which are in RAID 5, which get us basically a terabyte, and then our operating drive, which is made up of 2 SSDs that are in RAID 1. So there's redundancy in the system. Now, what we have to do is go back now to our virtual drives. This is a hell of a faff, but it's a nice little learning curve. Now the problem is we have to set the boot. So we want a VD0, so virtual drive 0, to be our boot drive. So we select it, we say OK, and it goes away, and then it comes back and it says set boot drive current equals 0. And now we say let's go home. We could just go straight up to the top here and exit, and all of these can be done with the keyboard. So this is designed to be keyboard interactive as well. Anyway, now we exit and we say yep. And now the system will continue its boot. So what happens now, of course, is because the RAID card is set as the boot device, and because the RAID card's boot device is drive 0, and drive 0 now exists again, or array 0 now exists again, we will get a startup. And I just thought I'd show you that. It's slightly irritating, but like I said, I've worked out how to get around it, and I also now am pretty confident as to what actually causes it. What causes it is restarting instead of shutting down, which is fair enough. There we go. We're having a legacy device check. Done. We've just checked our network cards. Our RAID card has just come online. We are reporting 2 virtual drives. And the next will be the startup of Windows. And there you go. I hope that's been useful for someone who's having the same kind of problem. It works perfectly for me. Thank you for watching.